I am one of the founding members of Norway's Equitable Housing Cooperative project. We're a core group of 6 people with 4 potential residents and 2 additional members from CB who are helping out. The 2 who couldn't make this photo op are Mike and Lou, and they'll be around this weekend. This group has been working together for the past 9 months to create housing that's equitable, regenerative, and cooperative in our town. And during the next 6 minutes, I'll tell you a little bit about the what and the how. Mostly I'm going to talk about the why we need affordable, equitable housing. My goal is to inform people who might have second-hand or third-hand experience with the housing crisis. So I'm going to share some of my first-hand experiences to illustrate what it looks like for someone who's here, someone like me, locally. So after graduating college, I came back to Maine, and I had the choice to live with 5 roommates or with my parents. I chose to live with my friends for 2 years, and one of my housemates' mothers owned the property, so it was affordable. So even in the beginning of the pandemic, while I was looking for a job, I could afford to be there. So I decided to start looking for an apartment for myself in March of 2021, and there wasn't much to choose from. What was available was often a scam, it was low quality, it was more than $1,000 a month, too far out of town, or a short-term vacation rental, as you can see. So thankfully I had the time to look, I wasn't being kicked out, and it took me 6 months of checking newspapers and websites every single day to find something, in part because I was not the only one looking. If something was decent, it was often rented out quicker than I could even get in and look at it. I eventually found an apartment in September, but I had to move out of that apartment in January of this year because my bedroom was not keeping above freezing. But thanks to my community, I had a new place to move into that same month. And that's how it's been for me. Maybe it sounds pretty hard, at times it was, but I do have a good place to live. So here is a non-exhaustive list of a few things that I had working in my favor. I can confidently say that these might be the only reasons that I have housing right now. And these should not be prerequisites. Mm-hmm. So let's take a moment to consider the people who don't have that list of privileges, who don't have a family that can support them, who are single parents, who aren't white, who probably work harder and longer than I do, and who struggle to stay connected to their community, because housing is a human right. So there's existing affordable housing through the government. Thankfully, it serves people who are disabled, who are older, who are families living below the poverty line, but there are long wait lists and few options for young people, single people, and people without disabilities, and there is no path for tenants to build equity in that system. So these struggles are not unique. Everyone in our group can tell you a similar story. And our mission is to create a replicable model for housing that doesn't just meet our needs, but can potentially help remove barriers to housing for people in our area, more people in our area, hopefully in a sustainable way. And that's what equitable housing means, that barriers to housing that meets needs and income levels are removed. Being committed to decolonizing in this project is an important part of removing barriers because this land is stolen. The problems we're facing are a result of colonialism and capitalism. So equitable housing could address these systemic inequities. It could address land back, reparations, and meet the needs of systemically exploited people and non-white community members. Just because Maine is the whitest state does not mean we don't have a responsibility to address these things. In fact, we probably have a greater responsibility. Housing needs to be regenerative because we're in climate crisis. Buildings need to have a net positive impact on our environment to be an adequate response to that. And regenerative also talks about a relationship of living with the land that's not wasteful, but regenerates, is reciprocal, like what Lakota said, and it helps the natural cycles of the land that we live with. And in terms of net positive energy impact, we are not there yet. Maine has the 8th oldest housing stock in the nation, so it's quite wasteful. And as we work to create new options, the constructions need to be comfortable and safe as the climate crisis worsens, and they should not add to the problem. The cooperative model is resilient, and co-ownership means that members who would otherwise be stuck in that loop of renting without a path to homeownership can actually build equity This model is one that makes sure that people who are impacted by the problem are involved in defining, implementing, and seeing the rewards of the solutions. Cooperative housing models value residents and address the public health crisis of isolation in our community and in our country. Humans are naturally cooperative, so a model that encourages that enriches the health of the community as a whole. It's not just about building houses or apartments, it's about the health of our community. None of us can respond to these systemic issues, housing crisis, climate crisis, alone. The creation of this kind of housing does not just give people quality homes, but can be a part of beginning to heal our neighborhoods and our communities. Because without my community, I would not have a place to live. Housing is a very simple word that describes something much more complicated about how we live with each other. So people don't just have a right to housing, a building to shelter them, they deserve a place and community that's designed physically and culturally to support them. Yeah. Our mission is ambitious, but it's proportionate to the issues we face, what's needed, and what's possible. This is the site we're looking at, and we're about to secure a first right of refusal for this property for the next 6 months to try and get the funding that we need. And please join us at our workshop tomorrow morning, and reach out to me or another member if you're interested in supporting this project. Thank you.